Imagine missing out on one of the best gaming experiences ever. Not because you didn't know about it, but because you thought it was a walking simulator. Well, I just got done playing that walking simulator, and it was the closest I've been to tears in a video game since.
Data set. We got it, sir. Good. That's one less loose end.
Ghost being killed in Modern Warfare 2. I just completed Death Stranding for the first time, and my god, that ending was beautiful. It takes a lot for me to get emotional for a story, but when it does happen, you know you just witnessed greatness. And it might have been one of the best gaming experiences I've ever had. Sometimes that's what happens when you come back to a game after not playing it for a few years and you realize, why did I not play this when it released? Why did I let this one go? And maybe I'll motivate you to play this game, or maybe you've been wanting to play this game, you just haven't checked it out yet. That's why I'm here. But don't worry, I'll tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, impact that it left on me. I know it's been a while since 2019, but with Death Stranding 2 coming out next year, I figured this would be a good time to talk about it. So let's get into it. It's been a long journey for myself and Sam Porter Bridges. I first began my save way back in 2019 on release day, November 8th, 2019 to be exact. And I finished it on February 10th, 2024. That's 4 years, 3 months, and 2 days. If you don't know what Death Stranding is, you're probably really confused right now. But it's a video game made for the PS4, PS5, and it was also released on the PC. It was developed by Kojima Productions and made by the legendary creator Hideo Kojima. And many of his games have a mainstream cult-like following. He kind of perfectly blends the two together. And Death Stranding was his newest release. Still is. But let's get into talking about the game now. When people say this is a walking simulator, well, they're not wrong. But that's like reading the headline versus the actual article. I guess everyone kind of does that. The gameplay in Death Stranding was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. There's not a whole lot of traditional enemies in this game. The environment is what really becomes your enemy. Sam might be carrying one package, or he might be carrying 20. And this is when you have to start planning out your routes and checking the terrain beforehand. Inspecting to see if you might need to bring a floating container, or even some of the equipment that you might have to bring, like new boots, new gloves. There's some outfit attachments that help you run faster, or some that allow you to carry like 200 pounds. Let me know if you think that sounds difficult. Some missions do require you to carry 200 pounds of equipment through a BT infested landscape. BTs are kind of like the ghosts in Death Stranding, and they are pretty dangerous. And sometimes on these routes, you're gonna be going through severe rain or snow tornadoes. I don't think snow tornadoes are a real thing. I think I was supposed to say blizzards right there. Snow tornadoes do sound a bit cooler though. And this severe weather can really damage some of the equipment that you're carrying. And if that equipment doesn't get to its destination, well then you might have to restart the whole mission over, or you might just get a bad grade on that mission. Some missions only give you 60 minutes to get an item across the map. And if you fail that mission, you have to start it all over. And that's just one of several scenarios in Death Stranding. Sometimes these missions you won't even see a single soul on the entire route. But honestly, it's pretty refreshing to see a game that doesn't require you to kill like 20 enemies in a single mission and then do it again in the next one. Rinse and repeat. Now let's talk about the setting. The mood of this game immediately piqued my interest. Dark, gloomy, wet, dark, gloomy. If that's something you like, you'll feel right at home. But if that's something you don't like, well, there's rainbows in the game too. But the setting is something I definitely like about Death Stranding. And a lot of people say that the setting was based on Greenland or Iceland, one of the two. Either one. If they're anything like Death Stranding, I'm interested in visiting. So I'll take them for their word. But the setting is something I definitely wanted from a Hideo Kojima game. The mastermind behind the legendary Metal Gear Solid series. And one of my favorite settings was Shadow Moses in Metal Gear Solid 1. And the environments really help the gameplay loop with the various mountains that you have to go over. It just creates a very intense terrain, especially when you're delivering some of these packages. I guess equipment, they're not really packages. You don't work for Amazon. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I did think for a little bit that this game was just gonna be brown and green. I like the mountains, but the colors wasn't my favorite for the entire game. Luckily, the game does have more environments to go through. Snow-capped mountains. The snow mountains might be the hardest area in the entire game. There's beaches, there's a lot of beaches. But if you do stick with the game, it does change later on. Okay, let's get into characters. It's no surprise that the characters in this game are insanely good. Basically, the entire cast is a bunch of Hollywood stars. Norman Reedus, Lea Seydoux, Mads Mikkelsen, Margaret Qualley, Guillermo del Toro. And every single cutscene with any one of them is almost perfect. Literally, down to the smallest expression. My favorites were Fragile and Dead Man. But like I said earlier, everyone in the game is great. Like, I haven't even mentioned Mama, and Mama was fantastic. After playing this game, it just shows that Kojima is ready to make a full-length movie, which he did recently announce he'd start the process of making one, which has probably been his dream for like ever. I mean, he's basically been making movies since like Metal Gear Solid. I mean, Death Stranding had like 7 hours of cutscenes, and I think Metal Gear Solid 4 had 10 hours of cutscenes, maybe 12. Hey, but don't get me started on the last cutscene in Death Stranding. I started, I think, at like 2, and I didn't get done watching the entire thing until like 5 p.m. It was like 2 or 3 hours long. It was crazy. We gotta get into this story. Hideo Kojima wrote this game, and if you played any of his other games, you're already gonna know it's probably gonna be confusing. You're probably not gonna get it the first time you watch it, you play it, whatever. And I didn't really get Death Stranding, but I got enough of it. I probably should have checked Reddit to find out what the story actually meant. I feel like everyone does that. I mean, shit, I played Metal Gear Solid 2 probably 5 or 6 times, and I feel like I still don't know the story 100%. And that game came out in 2001. All I know is this dude can predict the future. Kind of nervous to see what's gonna happen with Fizzin and Death Stranding 2. Regardless, this Stranding story is something else. I'm not trying to get into spoilers because I know the second game is coming out next year, but Sam Porter Bridges, the main character, really does grow throughout the game, along with many members of Bridges, which is the logistic company of the United Cities of America that was formed to reconnect the fractured society after Death Stranding began. You're basically working for a company that's trying to reconnect the United Cities of America, basically their version of the US. No spoilers, but you're trying to reconnect the internet. Sam basically goes to each city and reconnects the internet. They already have internet access, but you're connecting them to other cities' internet so you can talk to each other now. You begin to meet everybody, and every single character gets their fair share in the spotlight. Begin to feel for every single character. I won't lie though, the story does get pretty slow. And I gotta say, like, the first 20 hours are pretty slow. It's not until you beat chapter 3 that the story really does start to pick up, but I highly suggest sticking with it. You start to get that itch that you want to see the story through. Maybe not the itch. You just really want to see what happens next. And maybe some of you predicted the ending, but I was completely shocked to find out that see this thing through, even the 3-hour cutscene, worth every minute. I just want to share my experience with Death Stranding. Hopefully I can convince some of you to play it. Maybe you've been on the fence and you've kind of been like, I don't know if I want to play it, especially in 2024. I don't know if it still stands out to be, you know, a game I want to put some time into. I'm trying to tell you, this game is amazing. Everyone should play it. The story's great. It's just a different take on how to play a game. Just play it for a couple hours, check it out for yourself. I'd be interested in hearing if you play it for a couple hours and what are your thoughts on the game. Last year I was working on completing my backlog, but when I finished the game I just went on to the next one. This year I'm thinking about making a video on all the games that I complete, but kind of only the ones that left a genuine impact on me. Maybe the ones that changed the way I view video games. We'll see what happens. Right now I'm playing Persona 3 Reload, and I probably still have like 100 hours to go in that game. So the next backlog might not be for a while, but that's how the cookie crumbles. Please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate y'all hanging out, and if you're still watching, thank you. I'll catch you next time. Peace.